This is Miss Karen from Central Library, and this week we are celebrating World Folktales and Fables Week. And today I would like to read you one of my favorite books that has come out in the last few years. It's beautiful and very well written, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. It's called The Fabled Life of Aesop. It is written by Ian Lendler and illustrated by Pamela Zagorinsky, and she is the winner of 2 Caldecott Honor Awards. So the story goes like this. The Fabled Life of Aesop. The Fabled Life of Aesop. One day, a slave was born. It was sometime around 2,500 years ago and somewhere near Greece. No one knows for sure because the baby's parents were slaves too. No one recorded the history of slaves, so no one knows their names. The only thing we know is the name they gave their baby boy, Aesop. Aesop was taken from his parents and sent to work in the grape fields of Samos, a hot, dry island in the Mediterranean Sea. Growing up, Aesop learned to speak differently from people who were free. Slaves had to be careful what they said. One day, out in the field, a slave said to Aesop, "I heard the master has smelly feet." But the master overheard. That person was never seen again. So slaves learned to tell stories in ways that wouldn't get them in trouble. They spoke about the animals and the natural world around them. The next day in the field, the person working next to Aesop said, "Did you hear this story about the lion? He stepped on a thorn and his paw got infected." "Oh," said Aesop, "so that's why his paw smells." Aesop learned to speak in code. Everyone soon noticed there was something special about Aesop. One day, the water in the well dropped so low that the bucket couldn't reach. No one knew what to do. But Aesop had an idea. Everyone thought it was so clever that they all pitched in to help. The water began to rise, and when it reached the top, their cheers drew the attention of his master, Xanthus. Xanthus decided to test Aesop. He said, "You're clever enough to help slaves, but are you clever enough to help me?" Aesop hesitated. He was scared. He had to find a way to tell the truth without angering his master. He had to speak in code. Aesop said, "One day, a mouse accidentally stepped on a sleeping lion. The lion awoke and grabbed the mouse. 'Let me go,' begged the mouse. 'Someday I'll repay you.' The lion laughed at the idea of a puny mouse helping him, but he let the mouse go. The next day, the lion got trapped in a hunter's net. He roared helplessly. The mouse came running. He gnawed at the net until it broke. The lion was free. 'You see,' said the mouse, 'even a mouse can help a mighty lion.'" When Aesop finished his story, Xanthus laughed and said, "Very clever indeed. Come work in my house, little mouse. You can chew on any nets that trap me." Xanthus put Aesop to work running his business. One day, Xanthus and another master named Jaden had an argument over money. To settle it, they summoned Aesop and ordered him to judge who was right. Again, Aesop hesitated. Whichever master he chose, the other would be angry. Either one could have had him killed. He had to keep both masters happy. He thought, and then he said, "One very hot day, a lion and a boar found a small watering hole. They argued over who should drink first. They began to fight. As they fought, they noticed that vultures were gathering, waiting to eat the body of the loser. The lion and the boar stopped fighting immediately and shared the water. The vultures went hungry that day." "So it's better to make peace with your friends," said Jaden, "than be eaten by your enemies?" The two masters agreed that Aesop's advice was very wise. They settled their argument peacefully. Jaden was so impressed that he asked to buy Aesop. You see, no matter how clever or kind Aesop was, he was still just a slave, and slaves were something to be bought and sold. Xanthus agreed, and once again Aesop was taken away. In his new home, Aesop went to work. For every problem his new master faced, Aesop created a story about a sly fox, foolish farmers, or clever mice. The stories warned against greed and deceit. They taught the value of working hard and being honest, humble, and kind. Many of them taught another hidden lesson as well. It was something no master would pick up on, but every slave or powerless person would understand. They taught them how to survive in a world that was sometimes unjust and cruel. Now, at this point in the book, we have a section of a collected group of stories of Aesop's fables. For now, I am going to skip through this part and continue with the life of Aesop. Continuing on, with the help of Aesop's stories, Jaden became a successful and well-respected man, not just in business, but in life. He became a wiser and more generous person. He learned to treat others with respect. One day, he said to Aesop, "I would like to reward you for your service. Ask me for anything, Aesop, and I will grant your wish." This time, Aesop did not hesitate. He told a story he probably wanted to tell his entire life. One day, a wolf was weak with hunger. A house dog saw the wolf and said, "Cousin, you'll die in the wild. Come work for my master. He'll feed you every day." The wolf was so hungry. He agreed and followed the dog home. As they walked, the wolf noticed the fur on the dog's neck was worn away. "Oh, that's nothing," said the dog. "That's where my master chains me. You get used to it." "In that case," said the wolf, "goodbye, cousin. I would rather starve while I'm free than be well fed in chains." When Aesop finished speaking, Jaden fell silent. He thought for a long time, and then he granted Aesop's wish. For the first time in his life, Aesop was free. Soon, everyone had heard about the slave who was so wise that he had been set free. They went to him for help and advice. Aesop's stories were so memorable that they were told and retold in the streets. As the years went by, the masters grew old and passed away. Their wealth and lands were lost. Their names were forgotten. Aesop, too, eventually passed away, but his fame kept growing. His stories were repeated in homes and town squares for generations, for centuries, until one day someone gathered them together in a book and called them Aesop's Fables. It became one of the most popular books in history. And in its pages, Aesop, the boy who was born a slave, who told stories to escape, traveled further than any king and lived longer than any empire. He traveled across languages, countries, and continents. He traveled across 2,500 years of time to be here today. And now that you've heard his stories, he can travel for a while with you. The end. We'll turn the page at the end of the book. And folks, I want to encourage you to visit the local branch of your library system and check out this wonderful book, The Fabled Life of Aesop. You can read this story again. You can take time and spend some time reading the stories, the collection of fables that are in the middle of the book, and you can read this wonderful afterword. So I hope you enjoyed this book, and happy World Folktales and Fables Week. Goodbye.